Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining me tonight for writing a screenplay you can produce. I'm really excited about this particular webinar and the course that is companion to it because as writers, we can find it very difficult to become working writers. Um, there are lots of different paths, but I believe in taking your future into your own hands, and this is one way that you can do it. Writing something that you yourself can produce and then put out into the world to show people what your writing can be, to be your calling card, to show people that you have the chops to create a story that can be a really well made film. So with that said, let's jump into it. Tonight we're gonna go over 4 different aspects that are integral to creating a screenplay that you can produce. Those are identifying your resources, creating concepts based on those resources, developing that concept into a script, and then gathering your resources in preparation for production. So getting into it, resources is everything and anything that you need to make the film. So a lot of times what writer directors, especially starting out, do is they write a script and then they think about what they need in order to produce it. While that is not a bad method to do, if you want to make sure that this is something that you can pull off, it should be done in the reverse. List all your resources, figure out what you have, and then write something to that. Again, if you want this to be your calling card, you want to start building an audience, you have to first show people what you can do in order to gain that following, and put out more work, potentially get writing assignments, agents, managers, whatever the case may be. So the first thing that you want to think about is any and everybody that would work with you on a project. This can be friends, this can be family, this can be people you've worked with before. A really great thing to do is to get involved not only on various networking sites for people in the film industry, but also PA on a film. Get to know people in the film world, and build friendships with them so that you have a Rolodex of people who you can go to help you make your project. The next thing is going to be locations. Now, locations is anything you have or you have access to that where you can set your film. Where you live, parks are really great places because they're typically free. Beaches are great. There are all sorts of places that we have access to, but we don't necessarily think about when in terms of places that we can shoot. So I really encourage you to just like sit down and list everything that you own or someone close to you owns who would potentially allow you to use it, and just list those things out. And then next is equipment. Equipment is a big one. You do not have to use a really expensive film camera, the big lights. You don't need any of that. Those things are great to have, but if you do not have them, it's okay. Every cell phone now has the ability to record in 4K. And honestly, you don't even need your film to be in 4K. It can still be in those lower formats and be perfectly fine. So thinking about equipment, just what kind of phone do you have? You will potentially also need sound equipment, but there are a lot of apps and different technologies that you can buy for very cheap or rent in order to record your sound. Um, and depending on what you're shooting, lighting may or may not be something that you have to invest in. But again, these are things that you can rent, or you can find a DP that has their own equipment that would be willing to work with you on a project. So the next thing is funds. Now, this is extremely important because you can make a really great low budget or no budget film, but there may be things that you still need to invest some money in. And the two things that I think everyone who is making a project should always invest in is food and insurance. Especially if you're not paying people, you should, at the bare minimum, feed them. Chick-fil-A, Chipotle, a lot of other places have very reasonably priced food. I would not suggest that you cook yourself, because if anyone were to get sick for any reason, that could come back on you. And so we want to prevent you being sued or anything like that. Which brings us to insurance. Insurance can be very inexpensive. There are a lot of really good places that have insurance policies for people who are doing smaller productions. And I would suggest that this be a smaller production, especially if it's the first one that you're doing. So I have made films that were shot over the course of a week. And the insurance for the whole week was $200. So insurance can be very inexpensive. And I believe a really good website is eventhelper.com. Just Google insurance for films. A lot of places will come up and you can, put in your information and get quotes before purchasing anything, so you can go on to create a budget. Even if you're not paying anyone, you want to set aside some funds for, like I said, insurance, food, any props that are essential to what you're creating. And at the very least, have in mind the top of what you're willing to pay. And exact numbers are not going to come until you create your script, but just know what you can afford. This is going to be really key when you reach out to your resources. So now that you know what you can do based on your resources, it's time to start brainstorming. And don't let limited resources stop you from being creative. It's the whole job of a writer, is to be creative. So think outside of the box. Try to put a different spin on things. There is a reason that simple character-driven stories, suspense, and horror are where a lot of writers, a lot of filmmakers start out, because they're cost effective. And because this is Halloween season now, it is really easy to get props or find people who are willing to work on a project that are around those topics with you. So now that you've come up with some really good ideas, that you know you can do. It's time to develop that idea. Development is going to be one of the most important parts here, because it's going to make sure that you have a story that is not only entertaining, but it makes sense to what you are doing within your resources. So take the time to think about what this story really is, where it takes place, who lives in it, and why we should care. I am currently going through this process. Well, am in the middle of this process. I wanted to make 2 short films by the end of this month. I knew that the location that I had that I could shoot in and not worry about anything was where I live. I live in a 3-story townhouse with a garage, and that gives me a lot of options. There's a lot of things that you can do with a garage. And because there are 3 stories, I can create a lot of different locations or spaces within that garage or anywhere in the house. So I know where my story takes place. What kind of story can I tell? Being that it's Halloween, I want to make some horror films. So what are some things that are going on right now that people can relate to that I can make really terrifying? And then as I start to think why people should care, the news is a great place to pull from, just to expand whatever idea that you are working on right now. And I was able to really develop a story or stories that surface level are very engaging. People can quickly connect with the characters. But then, because I did some time to develop those characters and we know exactly who they are, about more than a third of the screenplay, both screenplays are about 12 pages, deal with character development. That way we care about what's going on in the characters' lives before we put them in danger. So now, as they are fearing for their lives for whatever reason, we care. We're concerned about what happens to them. So this is why developing your concept is so important, because if I'm watching something and it's scary, I may be scared, but if I don't care that the characters are in danger, the film isn't really going to resonate with me. And you need to make sure the film resonates with people if you are trying to build an audience, as well as trying to use this as a calling card to show what type of writer you are. Those things are really imperative. So make sure you take the time to develop your characters, the world that they live in, to help you create suspense, to help you create drama, to help the audience feel what the character is going through. Development really is the starting point for creating tone and atmosphere in your project. So make sure you take the time. Don't just come up with an idea and write 12 pages or however many pages, and not really understand where your characters are coming from. Because when you don't do that, your film isn't going to be successful. And it's also going to be harder to get people to sign on to that project, because it's just another project. You want your crew and your actors to be really excited about whatever you go on to write. And that's why development is one of the key aspects in this. So now that you have written your script, it's time to reach out to your resources. And the first thing you want to do is get your whoever. Now that you have written your script, it's time to gather your resources. Reach out to. What the heck is wrong with me? Now that you've written your script, it is time to gather your resources. Reach out. Now that you have your script, it's time to gather your resources. You have your list, but you want to bring on the key people first. So if you don't feel especially comfortable in producing this project by yourself, you want to find another producer, potentially a director, someone who's going to help you decorate, production designer, art director. Bring on those people. What is wrong with me? Okay, now that you have written your script, it's time to gather your resources. You have a list, so you want to reach out first to the people who are going to be integral to making it. So if you don't feel, comfortable handling all of this by yourself, find someone else to co-produce. You want to reach out to whoever you want to direct it. You want to reach out to the person that you want to be your cinematographer. And then also maybe the person who's going to help you decorate the set, your production designer or art director. Once those 4 or 5 people are on board, you want to ask them what they think of the script. Is there anything that, that they would change? Anything that they can add in way of resources? So for instance, maybe your cinematographer, they're like, oh, I really like this. It seems like a really dark and moody thing. What's your budget like? Well, my budget isn't that big. And they're like, well, it's okay. I really like the script and I want to work on it. I have some equipment that we can use. It happens all the time. Or you reach out to the person who's going to be doing your art, and they generally, production designers, art directors, especially if they work in the independent space, they have a lot of props. So they may go through your script and say, hey, these 10 props that you need are things that I already have. So that's something you can take off of your budget. So once you understand the resources that your team can bring to the table, you want to go through, you want to tweak your script a little bit, and also, very importantly, your budget accordingly. The key here when you're gathering your resources, especially with the top tier people on your crew, is just being really open and honest. If you don't have $10,000 to make something, don't say you have 10,000. Say, hey, I don't have a budget, but I really believe in this, and I think that this would be a great project for us to work on together. People in the industry want to work. DPs want to work. They want to make films. People who are doing art, they want to make art. So just be open and honest with every person, every location. If you're using a friend's, beach house or cabin in the woods, whatever it may be, you know, say, hey, this is what I want to do. Do you feel comfortable with this many people being in your house? Or whatever the case may be. I can't stress how important this is. You want to set the right expectations for people up front. And this will begin to build trust and deeper relationships with the actors and the crew that you bring on board ultimately. And then you can do more projects and bigger projects with them in the future. So that was essentially it, guys. Writing a screenplay that you can produce is not difficult, but it takes a lot of work. And one of the biggest things about the film industry is we see the glitz and the glamour, but we don't often realize how much work goes into creating a 5-minute short or something that isn't even an hour long. A lot of work goes into it, but if you build the right relationships with people, you 100% can do it. And with that said, like I mentioned earlier, writing a screenplay you can produce is a course that I am teaching, and we're really going to take our time and go through this. It is a 6-week course, but I am going to work with you guys to help you identify your resources. And if you find you don't have any resources, we're going to talk about some places where you can find people to help you create this project. We're going to talk about concepts. We're going to develop our concepts together. We're going to write our script together. And then we're going to reach out to those resources and make sure that everybody has the people in place to help them make their script come to life. And then we're going to put a plan together for the project. We're going to talk about funding and producing, distribution, and you're also going to have access to a private producing and networking group where we can all just help each other. And of course, there's going to be lots of materials for you guys. There's going to be budget templates, contract templates, just a lot of really great information so that you can start working in the industry. This is one of the first steps that I did after graduating film school. I got together with someone that I went to film school with, and we made 2 short films in 48 hours. It was utterly ridiculous. But this is essentially the process that we went through, and this is what it's like to be a producer. The only thing is typically when you're a producer, you have the script first. But these are the essential steps that you take in order to create any project. And so I'm really excited to help you guys create work that can get you work, which I am a firm believer in creating things not only that can put you in a position to get more work in the future, but help you build connections with other people in the industry that can just set you up for life. A lot of people that not only I met in film school, but through working on other projects, have been how I've been able to be a working writer for the past 8 years. So I am really excited about this again. And this particular course, writing a screenplay you can produce, actually starts, our first class is next week. So writing a screenplay you can produce actually starts, the first class is October 6th. So coming up real soon. But also I have concept to first draft and developing your series, which I am really excited about that one as well, because I love TV. But all three of these programs are within the well-developed series. We talk about how to really develop a script, a project, in order to make sure that it is not only written well, but it's going to be something that audiences are going to love, which means it's something that is going to get you noticed, whether you want to make your own stuff or you just want to get writing assignments and sell your work. So if you guys go to my link tree, you'll find all my information. These are actually two projects that I'm working on right now. The one in the back is an animated series. And the one in the front, Netherlands, is actually coming out really, really soon. But I want you guys to know that it is possible to create your own work and make a living off of it. It can be difficult at times, but just like any other job. So I want to give you guys the resources to do the thing you want to do. All the course information is at melbwrites.com/courses. And also, if you're interested in concept to script or developing your series, the webinars for those courses are going to be linked on there as well. And because you guys came to this webinar, I am offering 35% off all of my courses. In addition, I do one-on-one sessions where we can just go in depth on any issue that you may be having with your writing. And the 35% is on that as well. So with that, guys, I am really excited. I want you to go out and just think about all the things that you can do. Have a really open mind. Stay creative. Get to planning. Build your community and go out and produce some work. Yeah, I'm really excited for you guys and the work that you guys are going to create. Thank you for spending this time with me and investing in your career as a writer and now producer. You guys have a great evening. Bye-bye.